In this session, we'll look at how you can use API Wizard and Microsoft Excel to create and update your Oracle EBS blanket purchase orders faster and easier than you can through Oracle's forms or any other mechanism. What you see on the screen right now is an API Wizard loader. That's an Excel worksheet that's been configured to perform some type of Oracle EBS process. API Wizard has loaders for every Oracle EBS process, but the focus right now for this session is on blanket purchase orders. So blanket purchase orders have headers, they have lines, and then they may or may not have price breaks. And so you'll see that the API Wizard loader is set up to match the Oracle forms in terms of its structure. And so you'll see here that in the light blue, we have the header. And so the header here has a number of fields. You can see that it starts with a purchase order and revision number field. Those are used if you're updating a purchase order. If you're creating a new purchase order, generally your system will auto assign the purchase order number. And then you add the supplier name, supplier site, ship to and bill to locations, the buyer. The status is reference only. That will be updated if you download an existing purchase order, you'll see the status of it. Otherwise, we don't need to do anything here in this loader. Description, supplier contact, currency also is a reference field. The amount agreed, whether it's a global blanket, and then a reference field. And that comprises the header information. Now, there are other header fields that you can add if you want, but those are the basic fields. A blanket purchase order can have many lines. So in the green section of the loader, under the green column headers, the line level information. And you'll see that in row 14 is sort of the subtitle for the section. So this is the line tab information. So if you're familiar with the blanket purchase order form, you'll see these same fields, such as the line type, the item, if it's an inventoriable item, the item revision, a category, line description, the unit of measure, the price. And you can control here from in the action section whether you're adding a line or updating a line. You don't have to pass the line number. So if you're creating a new blanket and you're creating lines, then you can leave this blank and it'll auto number it for you, or you can specify the lines if you want. And you'll note here that I have 2 line 1s, and that'll be because line 1 is going to have 2 price breaks, which I'll show you when we get to the price break section. So again, this is the general line information. Then if I scroll a little bit further to the right, you'll see that I get to the line reference, price reference. These are optional fields, so maybe you'll fill them out or maybe you won't. You'll see here that we filled them out for this PO. And then if I scroll over further to the right, you'll see I've got the lines more section and also the lines agreement section. One of the nice things about API Wizard is that if you don't use any of these fields, you can just remove them or hide them in your loader to make it simpler. So for instance, you see that I didn't use any of the line more fields. So I can just highlight those fields, hide them, and now they're out of my way, which is nice. Finally, I get over to the pink section here. That's the price breaks. And so you can enter multiple price breaks per line. And that's what we saw when you noticed that I had 2 line 1s for that blanket, was that there are 2 price breaks. So there's a price break at 100, a quantity of 100, and another price break at a quantity of 1,000. And you can have as many price breaks as you want. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got looks like a 7-line purchase order. And you can see here that it's these fields from 17 to 23 for the supplier staples. And so you enter the header 1 time, and then you'll see that there's 7 lines, 3 goods lines and 4 service lines that have been added. And then if I scroll down to the section here, this is another blanket, and this one has 3 lines. So again, this is for Advantage Corp. And then if I scroll over to the right, you'll see that there's 3 lines. Actually, there's 2 lines, and one of the lines just has 2 price breaks. So for the second row of line 1, you'll see that I just have line 1 an action of add, but I didn't have to fill out that line again because it's basically the same line. All I want to do is just tell it that I'm creating that second price break for that line. And then when I get, and then just below that, there's actually a second line on this, which did not have a price break. So if I scroll over here, you'll see that there's no price break for that second line. So the first line had one, the second line didn't. Anything that you can do in the standard Oracle EBS forms, you can do here in API Wizard. It's just a heck of a lot quicker and easier. Now, before I go ahead and execute this, I'll just point out a few things. Number one, this is a fully live user interface. You're connected to Oracle. So you log in with your Oracle EBS credentials. That's your EBS username and password or single sign-on username and password. And all of the typical user elements that you expect, the ability to use LOVs, the ability to run extraction reports and populate data in Excel, you can do all of that here in API Wizard. So for example, if you notice row 13, a lot of the column headers say that there are LOVs available for those fields. So all you would have to do is just double click in one of those fields and it'll pop up and it'll get the current values from Oracle. So for instance, if I was not sure of how to spell the buyer's name, I can just double click here in the buyer field and that'll open up LOV. And right now it's filled out for the value that was in the field, Miss Pat Stock. I'll click query, and then that'll bring back all of my buyers. And so if I wanted to set this to Catherine Baker, for instance, I can just select her name. I can say OK, and then it fills that out for me. Or if I said, oh no, that really should be Pat Stock, and I'm not really sure, what the order of the name is or whatever, I can just put it in wildcards and say query. And then you see that that brought back two people, Miss Pat Stock and Mr. Pat Stockman. So we'll take Pat Stock. And so I can do that for any of the fields. So that makes it really easy for me to ensure that I'm getting the correct value and not misspelling anything and so forth. The extraction reports are really nice. So after I've created these purchase orders, if I want to make some changes to them, I can just download these purchase orders or any other purchase order at any time. If I come back tomorrow and want to download it and make some changes, I can easily do that. So it has all of those capabilities. And so now when I'm ready to process, I just go to the API Wizard toolbar, which is available under the add-ins menu in Excel. I click on the execute option, and then API Wizard tells me what's about to happen. So you can see here that it says you're about to process 10 rows in the EBS DB01 environment. Do you want to continue? For those of you that are familiar with API Wizard, you know that once this starts running, a few things will happen. Rows that are successfully validated will be colored in blue. Rows that have any errors will be colored in red. That'll be the first thing you'll notice visually on the form. There's also an output section, and so as the data is processed, the status column will have either a value of S for success or E for error, and if there's any error, you'll get an error in the messages column so that the user is able to fix any issues and reprocess. Okay, so let me go ahead and actually do it. So again, I'm going to go back to the execute button, and I'll click on yes to process these 10 rows. All right, so now we'll let API Wizard run. Here's the execution summary that tells us what happened. We can see that there were 10 records processed, there were 10 successes, there was no errors, and at this point I can go ahead and say commit to save, and I'm done. So just that easily, I created those 2 blankets, and whether you're creating 2 blankets or 20 blankets or 200 blankets or 2,000, no matter how many lines the blankets have, so these were small with just a few lines, but you can have blankets with hundreds or thousands of lines. It's just super simple to set up in API Wizard. You can enter the blankets, you can update those blankets, all here in this loader. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of other things. I won't run them, but just to kind of show you some other things that you can do here with API Wizard. So this is the full functioned loader. It can do everything you can do in the Oracle forms. It has all the fields. It works with flex fields, all of those kind of things. Here I'm going to just move to another worksheet in my workbook called Add or Update Lines. And this loader is set to allow you to just create a line for an existing purchase order. So you'll see here, for an existing blanket purchase order. You'll see here that there's just one field for the header, which is the purchase order number. And then there's just a very minimal set of line fields and also the price break. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to really optimize and only have to pass the information that you want. This is just an option within API Wizard. Basically, all this is just a stripped down configuration of the loader that you just looked at. Because you can take any API Wizard loader without having to do any programming and change the configuration to work exactly the way that you want. So this is a nice example of how I can do my adding or updating lines to a blanket in a even simpler way. And then here's another example, the add price breaks. And so this is a loader now that allows you to just add price breaks to blanket lines. So here you're passing the purchase order number, but no other details about the purchase order. Here you're passing the line number, but no other details about the line. And then you're simply passing in the price break information. So again, if you want to go and add price breaks after the fact, this makes it really simple for you to do. Or maybe you just feel like, hey, some of my price breaks are pretty complicated, so I'd rather just get the purchase order and the lines loaded, and then I'll come back and do the price breaks. This would give you that capability to do that as well. And then lastly, we also have an attachment loader that allows you to load any kind of attachment, whether that's a binary like a PDF document or a Word doc, or it also allows you to pass to attach text information, notes, URLs, and so forth. Okay, so that's a little bit about the API Wizard blanket purchase order process. It's very comprehensive. Again, anything you can do in the Oracle Forms, you can do here, just a lot faster and a lot easier. Also, any blanket purchase orders that you create here will go through your standard workflow process, similarly to if you were using Oracle Forms. So if you've got a workflow approval set up, this will go through that as well. Okay, well, thanks for watching. If you'd like more information about using API Wizard for blanket purchase orders or for anything else, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to set up a demo where we can talk live about your particular use case or answer any questions that you have. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to helping you get your Oracle work done faster and easier.